Welcome back, pod people. Today, my guest is Rick Ives, the director of Solid Rock Trust, a really fascinating, tense little heist thriller movie that, if it were a TV show, I would call it a bottle episode because it's set almost entirely in a single location, shot just on this one set, or actually probably not even a set. I'm going to guess it was shot on location in an actual warehouse. So Rick, tell us about that. What made you choose to shoot in a single location, aside from, I'm guessing, the expense aspect of it? And how did shooting on such a restricted set change the filmmaking process?
Yeah, hey everyone. Nice to meet you, and thanks for having me on. Great questions. So, originally I wrote this as a short years and years ago that I wanted to shoot, and I was coming up with ideas for something I could shoot in my apartment before I was even married and had a family. And I came up with an idea. What if someone had a whole bunch of cell phones and they needed to talk to a bunch of different people? What might be happening? Bank heist sounds like a fun genre. I like those. So what if I came up with a bank heist and she's in one place, the bank's in another place, and I don't know, see what we come up with. I can never get my short film script under like 27 pages.
Oh, wow.
It's just too hard. Because I wanted to have, different characters, and I wanted to have some twists and turns, and you kind of have to set up that kind of stuff before you can pay it off. So I ended up expanding it into a feature length because I thought, hey, this is a movie that I could probably afford to make if we keep it to one interesting location and have some really good actors, and we put all our money towards, cinematography and having a good presentation and good sound design and good coloring, and kind of trick people into thinking, oh, this is not an indie movie. This is like a real movie.
Oh, well, I definitely take objection to the idea that indie movies are not real movies.
Right. And those are the movies I spend a lot of time watching. They're not the movies that my family spends a lot of time watching, if you know what I mean.
That I do know what you mean. Yeah, that's fair.
And so that was always my goal. We wrote something in a way that we could make this as professional as we could, despite the fact being, we're still a very small crew, very small cast, very few number of people, and see what we came up with.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that spurred a lot of questions. You say very small cast and crew. The cast is pretty obvious. How many people were in the crew?
On any given day, we have between 10 and 14, I think, is what I came up with. So we still had, I shot on 2 cameras. So we had a director of photography who operated, and then we had another operator, and then we had an assistant point focus on each. We had hair and makeup. We had some PAs. You gotta have somebody take care of all your media every day.
Yeah, I'm a little
actors coming. So
yeah, I'm a little surprised to hear that you had multiple focus pullers. I sort of assumed that on a production of this scale, that's one of the things that you can afford to cut is focus pullers. What did you film it on?
So we shot on Reds.
Oh, wow.
One Red was owned by one of our producers, so we got that very cheap.
Nice.
The other one we rented. Surprisingly, you can get the equipment is not what's expensive.
Hiring the expert is what's expensive.
The camera equipment, yeah, it's the labor. So we used very few lights. And
we had the camera set up, natural lighting.
But most of our budget went to crew. I didn't want anyone working for free, so we ended up paying, at least a meaningful wage, not a top dollar, but at least, what a starting salary might be per day for everyone.
Was it a union production?
Nope, non-union, but we still had close to union rates.
Right.
And then I say that we had a focus puller for each, but those people wear different hats because it was an assisted camera. So they're building the camera every day, and they're helping us move lights around, and everyone's contributing.
They're PAs
in many ways.
Yeah. How long was the shoot?
And then we shot for 11 days.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty quick. Most of the movies that I've worked on, pretty standard. You're going to be shooting 2 to 4 pages a day. On a lot of indie productions, you're shooting 7 to 8 pages a day. For us, we were doing 10 pages a day, and our biggest day
Nice.
was I think 22. So we got up there, and I
Yeah.
think that's our best stuff. Actually, that's the later part of the film where we were being real run and gun. You probably know what I'm talking about, where camera starts to be more handheld and
Oh,
shakier and
yeah. I was going to
closer,
mention.
and yeah,
I was going to mention that, given how limited the number of things that the camera could like actually be pointed at was, because it's just for almost all of the movie, it's the one actor in the one location.
right. So maybe I should set up before you ask your question what this is for anyone who hasn't seen it. So female bank robber. She's in a remote location. It's an abandoned auto body shop that's real nasty and grungy, and she has a whole bunch of cell phones in front of her, and she is talking to all of her team who's in the bank performing this heist, and she's sort of in control. So she's telling them where to go, what to do, and the twist is none of them know they're talking to her because each person she's talking to, she's a different accent with, and if any of them were to share that with each other, there would be a problem. There's a problem. So everything that happens in a regular bank heist movie, you can expect to happen here. Double crossings, backstabbings, twists and turns, cops get called, everything goes wrong, and we're all in the perspective of her still worried about what might be happening in the bank. So anyways, that's the setup. And you were going to ask about the camera.
Yeah, I noticed, or at least I think I noticed, and I'm curious if it was a real thing I was noticing, that it seemed like the camera, the motion of the camera became more sort of hectic and handheld as the tension ratcheted up in what was going on. It seemed like the camera was sort of giving us insight into the main character's state of mind.
Yeah, definitely. And that was something I talked to my director of photography about, Dakota, on day one, is how I wanted to shoot it. So it's more than just the camera moves. It's also the lenses that we were on and the angles that we
Oh,
were choosing. So when you start at the beginning, it's wide and slow, and we were doing a lot of dollies and shots overhead and shots from far away. And it's almost that you don't even notice it happening. But if you put it the beginning scene and the end scene, next to each other, there's like two different movies, because all of a sudden we're in handheld and close-ups, like right on her eyes, right on her mouth, right on her ears. And it's sort of what I wanted to do was the background to kind of fade away, because the setting becomes less and less important. And what becomes important is what she's listening to and the stakes that she's in and the decision she's making right now and whether she's going to be able to hold this all together or not. So yes, definitely intentional.
yeah. Interesting that you say that the setting becomes less important, because if anything, I felt like the setting became more important as the movie went on, because at the beginning of the film, it's just, here's a person in their home base, whatever it is. Like, it could be an abandoned auto shop, it could be a warehouse that's
Right.
actively in use, it could
Right.
be, like, I've been in warehouses that have been converted into apartments, and honestly, it could have been one of those. But then, as the movie goes on, the fact that, oh, she doesn't actually have permission to be in this location, that becomes important, and people are trying to figure out where the location is. That becomes important, and so
Right.
I became, what had previously I'd just filed away as like, oh, she's in a place. It's like, oh, the specific place she's in actually really matters.
Does matter. Yeah. But you're right to say that it could be anywhere. Like, we could have picked any abandoned building, not an auto shop. That has nothing to do with what she's doing. It just happened to be where she found. But I'm glad you picked up on that. Like, that added tension for you. The fact
Yeah.
that even though she's far away, she might still be in some kind of danger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, oh man. So I found myself, at first, I didn't go in expecting that this would all be in one location the way it was. And not quite literally all in one location. There is a
Right.
little bit shot in, or at least set in, the alleyway behind the warehouse. Was that shot in the alleyway outside of the place that the rest of it was shot, or was it shot in a different location?
It's half a mile away or so. I mean, we shot everything in one town and made it look like, a couple different places, even though all these places are very close to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always interesting to me when something that looks very natural, and to people who aren't familiar with the the strangeness of filmmaking might assume like, oh yeah, this is the set is the alleyway behind the warehouse. So surely it was shot in the actual alleyway behind that specific warehouse. But
Right.
no, alleyways don't look like alleyways on film. We had to
Yeah.
shoot it on a highway.
Well, and the beauty with the kind of urban location that we had is it all looks the same in every city, you know? And I was kind of careful not to find a location where this is taking place because it could be anywhere. And as soon as you find an alleyway, you're like, oh, well, I've been there. I know what that looks. You know, it could
Yeah.
be the alley from any abandoned building because you walk by 100 of them.
Yeah, I was wondering, was this set in a real place or was this set in like a fictional town? Because there's a brief moment where you show like Google Maps or something, and I was like, "Ooh, I want to see if I can find that on Google Maps," and I did not succeed, but I also didn't try very hard. So
it was not supposed to be anywhere specific other than just like a generic city.
Okay.
And she talks a little bit about her background and where they came from, and there's like kind of hints. She does mention something about them being in the South, something like that. But the idea was that we don't really know where this is, and we don't really know when it is either. I don't know if you picked up on that. Is the technology is kind of backdated, and we're not really sure the time period that this might be. That's all pretty intentional because I wanted it not to be dated or placed.
I definitely assumed that it was like somewhere from 2010 to present just because of having a bunch of cell phones and it being the norm that everyone has a cell phone.
Right.
I somehow got the impression that it was set in Georgia, but I can't remember what gave me that impression.
Yeah, that's where we shot. So
okay.
I don't know if us talking ahead of time maybe tainted that a little bit. I honestly can't even remember where that map came from. I pulled something up with an intention of kind of making it generic, and I don't even remember where it was.
Yeah, I believe they say the name of the town because they say the name of the bank, and it's like town name bank or something like that. Although now that I say it out loud, I'm less confident about that.
Well, the name of the bank is Solid Rock Trust, which is the title.
Okay, yes, of course. That makes sense. So you mentioned that when you were originally writing this and attempting to make it be a short film, it was 27 pages long, the script. How long did the final full feature-length script end up being?
Well, the final movie is, I think, 97 minutes, and I think I was right there at 98, 99 pages. So we're pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very much on the 1 minute per page, which makes sense. It's a very dialogue-focused film.
Right.
It's almost all... There's really... I guess there are 4 physical performances in it. And I got to say, I was ever so slightly disappointed when we saw other characters come onto screen about 2/3 of the way through, because I was like, when I was about halfway through, I was like, oh my gosh, are we only ever going to see this one character? I can't remember ever seeing another movie like that.
Right.
But then
they're out there. So I took a lot of inspiration from, there's a movie called Locke, which is Tom Hardy. It's just him in a car the whole time on the phone. And you should write these down, Thomas.
I am.
Everyone else listening. My favorite one is called Buried. It's Ryan Reynolds. He's in a coffin. Yeah. He's in a coffin for the whole movie. There's another one that's come out since I filmed this, which is called The Guilty on Netflix. That's not quite one person, but it's a main actor at a 911 call center.
Oh,
so there's stuff out there.
And then there's like the phone booth and a few other.
That one, I don't know if you can quite count that because it's like a big city and hundreds of extras. And yes, he's in a phone booth, but you still have quite a cast.
Well, there's I can't remember. There's 2 movies that have a very similar premise and I believe very similar titles. And there's the one you're talking about, and then there's another one that's set in like a phone booth outside of a convenience store in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of this.
That one's like an indie film that has very little, like, it's been a few years since I've seen it, so I don't remember it super well, but it's a similar thing, but much more scaled back and without the hundreds of extras factor that you mentioned.
Right. I'm gonna have to look that one up because I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Another one where it's like you wouldn't expect that there would be able to make as much tension given the very, very limited scope of the film, but it actually ends up working really well.
Right. Well, that's part of the game is, when you're watching a movie in a theater or on your couch, you're very safe, right? Nothing is going to happen to you. You're not in any danger, but you still care about the people you're watching. And so part of the challenge was, if I remove the audience even one step further from that, would it still matter? Like when you are listening to someone you've never seen die, does that still affect you the same way? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of this plays out like a radio show, and I really wanted people to care about the people who they've never even seen before and worry about them.
Yeah. Oh man. So that prompts two questions that I want to ask about. The first is, yeah, how, especially given these limitations, what techniques do you use to get people to care about these characters?
A couple things. I really tried to cast people whose voices were unique, compared to the other voices that you're going to hear. So when someone picks up the
Really,
phone and starts talking, you know exactly who that is.
yeah,
You know
really
what I mean?
distinctive.
Right.
You won't get them confused.
The other thing was to make their characterizations unique. So you have one person that's angry and wisecracking, talking, fast all the time, and one that's maybe more timid, and one that's a little more firm but wise, and you have one that's the Australian guy is the driver, so you can recognize his voice pretty easily. And
Yeah.
I really wanted to make it seem like you got a sense of who these people were just by how they talk. And like I said, when their relationships start to interconnect in different ways, you understand where they're coming from and what's at stake there.
Yeah. So did you cast voice actors or traditional actors?
So I specifically went after traditional actors.
Interesting.
Voice actors are great, but they come with and this is not a criticism. They're very good at what they do, but almost too good. Like it's perfect. You know what I mean? Like they're in such control that it almost sounds like someone who's been on the news or someone who's been on the radio. Like
Interesting.
they have a voice that sounds like they belong there. And I
Hmm.
didn't want that to happen. I wanted these voices to sound like just anybody, like could be anyone,
Huh.
untrained and scared and nervous and almost a little bit like improvised, even though very little of it was. But I don't know. Do you feel like you felt a difference between those things? Did it feel that way to you?
So it's interesting that you brought up like radio plays earlier because I think that my connection with radio plays is similar to your connection with professional voice actors here, in that radio plays usually sound fake to me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't sound like, or typically to me at least, it doesn't sound like you're in an environment listening to the sounds and people that happen to be in that environment. It sounds like you're in a recording studio listening to professional voice actors and Foley artists,
It's
because that
more of
is
a it's more of a suggestion of a story, right? Like, oh, then he got on a horse and you hear like some horse
uh, uh,
beat,
yeah. I mean,
or
certainly
out in
that's what makes.
traffic and you hear a little bicycle bell and a horn honk.
Yeah. Yes, and so I find that as someone who likes, I mean, I enjoy the occasional radio play every now and then, um, but I'm a huge fan of the medium of filmmaking.
Mhm.
I will often, like, if I'm doing chores or something, I mean, in doing something where I can't devote my eyes to watching a film, I'll still put on a film that like I already know really
Mm.
well.
Mhm.
And I find that the audio of that uh, embeds me in the environment more than the more carefully crafted or more specifically crafted to be only the audio of a radio play, where, and I think it's because there's more sort of empty spaces for my imagination to fill things in. Um, and so I think it sounds to me like you're aiming for a sort of similar effect where if you got professional voice actors, everything would be really precise and everything would be uh, specifically crafted to the medium of sound. Whereas with, I don't want to call them amateur voice actors, but like with professional normal actors, is there a word for that?
Right.
The way that
I
voice
guess
actors.
I guess you would say live action actors.
Okay, yeah, with live action actors, they don't put in things that are specific to the medium of just sound. And so there are these gaps where like I'm like, oh, what's going on right now? Why is oh, the person paused and like maybe moved away from the microphone to talk a little bit because they're
Right.
talking to another character in the
Right.
scene.
Right.
And they're turning away from, in the fiction of the universe, they're turning away from their cell phone. In the reality of it, presumably they're turning away from the microphone that it's being recorded on.
Right.
Um, Oh yeah, there's another question. When you recorded those lines, did you have them in like a sound booth, or did you record them like with a boom mic on a set, or how did you do that for the characters
Um,
who we don't see physically?
yeah. Great question. So, first, let me say the pauses, the weird stuff, that was all intentional too, because I wanted it to feel like,
Yeah, I presume.
yeah, I did want it to feel like you could almost watch another movie, which was filmed only in the bank, right? And there would be
Yeah.
times when someone might walk away from the phone or hand the phone to somebody else or set it down and walk, away, or they can't talk right now because they're being shot at, whatever it is. So that stuff was intentional. And to circle back to your other question, then we did try to find ways to do that stuff, while we're recording. Had spent a lot of time thinking about how I wanted to do that because I knew I didn't want to just have someone on set and read lines to her and have her act off of that, because that's not, you don't get a good performance that way. And I didn't think I wanted to deal with the hassle of getting actors all there sitting around and doing nothing except reading a line once in a while. Also, we shot this during COVID, so I was trying to keep, the physical interactions to a minimum. So what I came up with was we ended up recording all the voice acting ahead of time over Zoom calls. So Coco, our lead actress, was in LA. Everyone else was local to Georgia. She wasn't out here yet. But I set up all these Zoom calls one-on-one. So her with Carmen, and then her with Rowan, and her with Boomer, each character one by one. And we went through their scenes for the whole movie all in one sitting. So it was like 2 to 3 hour sessions, and just recorded every single phone call. And they could see each other and they were playing off each other. And we did multiple takes, just like you would on set. And I said, let's make that one a little more like this, or let's try it this way. And we kind of just worked through each scene of the movie and uncovered the characters as we went and, played with it that way. After those were all recorded, I had them send me, all their clips. And then I edited them down into the conversations that I wanted. And I took Coco's voice out of all of them. So you just had, on all these conversations, you had one actor pause, one actor pause, next line pause. And then I put all that stuff on her iPod or her phone. And she listened to it on the plane and at night when we weren't working. And she just rehearsed against the performances that they'd already done. And then when it came to shoot it on the day, it was like finished. She knew what her performance was going to be, and the timing was the same. And I pushed play on the exact same recordings on a loudspeaker, and she just did it, man. Line after line, phone call after phone call. Sometimes we'd go for 10 minutes at a time.
Oh, on a loudspeaker, not on
Yeah.
like an earpiece or in the phone.
Nope. We ended up doing it on a loudspeaker. I was afraid of an earpiece because
Huh.
it would be too easy to, see by accident. And also, I just had a mic hooked up to the loudspeaker, like we do on a lot of big movies, and sat and watched the monitor and said, okay, action. And then we'd push play and you'd hear the whole thing kind of happen. And it was cool, too, because there were a number of times our Dakota, our director of photography, who was operating the A camera, was getting into the moment, because you hear the screaming and you hear shouting back and forth. And he's like in it, just like if actors were, on set together. I think it worked really, really well. It became a little bit of a pain later because you have to go back and cut out every single one of those.
I was gonna say, yeah, that sounds like a lot of editing.
But it
A lot
wasn't
of
bad. Time is the
yeah.
thing that I did have. So
Okay, that's good. Yeah, and I think you have a background in like editing and audio production. Is that right?
yeah, that's right.
Right.
So I
So
do I do editing, and I'm an assistant editor professionally for Marvel. We haven't talked about that yet, but um, so yeah, I do that during the day, and then I like to edit these kind of things at night. And I really did want to have an editor. We ended up just letting me do it for budget reasons, and schedule reasons. I think it probably could have been elevated by another set of eyes, but at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy with what we came up with. And all my ideas seem, like technical ideas on how to shoot this seem to work pretty well for me. So I'm glad we went the way we did.
yeah. Yeah, I think it ended up working well, and um, we wanted to have this extra crew member, but instead I just did it all myself, is a common refrain on independent films, it
Right.
seems. So,
Right.
yeah. So you mentioned that you work as an assistant editor for Marvel. I'm curious. Yeah, obviously Marvel is about as big as it gets in terms of big budget filmmaking. Uh, what are the differences like between that and
Um,
smaller scale things?
the amount of money, that's really it. It's funny, as I was going into production, which I've never done before. This is the first time I've produced my own film and saw it all the way through post production. But it is almost the exact same thing. It's like a snowball. You say, okay, we're going to do this. And you start making travel plans, and you look for a location, and you start hiring people. And then no matter what happens, we're shooting on this day. So we gotta get there. And then no matter what happens, we got to be out of here by this day. So we got to get there. And you just take it one day at a time, and it's really the same. I mean, the only
Huh.
difference is the size of the sets, the size of the crew, the catering budget, much bigger. Uh, they can get away with a lot more visual effects stuff. Obviously, clearly, if it's magic or they're in space or something crazy, that's a visual effect. But you'd be surprised how
Yeah.
many visual effects get done that you don't know about. Um, so we
Yeah.
don't have that luxury. But still, it's kind of the same. I feel like I learned a lot being on those kind of projects. I'm a Marvel super fan, anyways, when it comes to the MCU. So I'm just happy that they let me in the door and keep doing it,
Awesome.
because I'd be watching that stuff anyways. But I feel lucky that I get to read the scripts and see what these scripts look like, before they're shot. So you kind of have that mindset of what goes into them and what makes them work or not work, versus other scripts that you read. Um, it's great to see directors doing their thing and being able to mimic some of that and see why they're doing what they're doing and why you're getting the performance you are, because they know what to tell the actor. It's great to see how they build exciting moments that, on the day, it's hard to see what this shot and this shot and this shot will equal. But when you have a roadmap of where it's going and what it looks like when it's finally done, not everyone gets to see that. They only get to see the final product and, oh, it's great, or nah, that part was boring. But I get to see how it got there, and it's very educational.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad that it's such a positive experience for you. And it's interesting. I think like I've talked with other people who've worked on mainstream things like Marvel, well, mainstream things, nothing quite like Marvel. Um, but uh all of the other people I've talked to who have been in that position came to that from doing independent films. And it seems like you sort of went in the other direction, that you've been doing mainstream editing for over 10 years. And uh, this Solid Rock Trust, which came out in 2022, um, is your first independent film. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So that's really interesting that you're sort of doing the opposite path than, I mean, although of course you're continuing to work on Marvel stuff. You've got some upcoming series that you're helping edit on. Um, So I'm curious what prompted you, like, is independent filmmaking something that you're only recently becoming interested in, or is it something you've wanted to do for a long time and just not gotten around to? Or tell me a bit about that path.
Yeah, sure. I've always been interested in independent filmmaking. I can't remember if we were on air when we were talking about this already, but I watch a lot of indie movies. Uh, I grew up interested in that kind of thing. Even as I've worked professionally, I am also editing independent movies. So if you look at my IMDb, you'll see 5 or 6 feature length edits in there. I also just did an independent documentary last year that should be out hopefully in a few months.
You might want to update your IMDb because it actually only gives you two edit. Um. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's because there are different
Flip it.
things in there.
Sorry.
I've got editorial department, I've got visual effects departments, I've got a number of
Yeah.
things.
I just misread it. I was only looking at the upcoming things in the editorial department, not all of the things. You actually have 21 credits in the
Right.
editorial department. So
So
quite a
I had
difference.
been editing these indie features for a company out in California who I'm good friends with, and that's sort of how this movie came about. Was I thought, I could do one of these. I feel like I want to write something original and take the lead. If they're doing it, why can't I? So we kind of went into partnership together after I pitched that to them. They're co-producers on this too. And yes, this was the first thing that I've written and directed, but definitely not the first indie movie I've worked on.
Okay.
It's always the goal, I love making art. I love the business of it. I love everything that goes into filmmaking, and I just feel lucky that I could pay the bills doing a small piece of it in a big machine, and also have a little more control in the smaller ones. It's a trade-off. You were talking a little bit about this in 1 or 2 episodes ago, I think, in one of the episodes I was listening to, but it's tough. On the small ones, there's not a lot of money. You're really strapped by what you can do, but at the same time, you have less and less people breathing over your shoulder on making sure this returns a huge profit.
Yes.
You have more freedom to go where you want with the story, or to be more creative with characters, or do something that might not necessarily fit in a mainstream movie. The trade-off is when you have all that money, you have more on the line. So you got to make sure this is going to reach a much wider audience.
Yeah, it's no longer just like, will you make back your money and be able to afford to make the next one? It's, will these thousands of people who are, you know, whose careers are riding on the continued success of this franchise, be able to keep their jobs?
Right. Yeah, totally. They got a lot of money riding on this stuff. And I tell you, every single joke, every single visual effect, every single camera angle gets poured over in the edit over and over and over. And they're really trying to make sure this thing plays to all audiences, different cultures, different ages, different races. They want to hit as many people as they possibly can. And that doesn't make it bad or good. It just is a different way to play the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I found there was definitely a while there that I'm sort of moving out of this phase. I go through phases in my specific movie preferences, and there was a while where I was just tired of things that had mainstream appeal and was only watching like really weird indie movies. Um, and now I'm moving back a bit towards watching things that other people also like.
Right. I do the same thing. I go through phases where I'll like watch. Shoot, I've been on a found footage kick forever
Oh
in the
yeah.
last year, because I'm thinking about trying to do one of those next.
Oh, nice.
And that's just a genre that you just get so sucked into, and then after a while, you're like, man, I need something else. So
Yeah,
you go back to the big Netflix release, or whatever it is, and they're all fun, man. There's something good everywhere.
it's true. There's always something, if nothing else, there's something to learn from every movie. Um, Man, so briefly on the subject of found footage films, that's one of those ones where I keep thinking like I should get into found footage films and watch a bunch of them, and I'll like watch one and then be like, oh, this has inspired me to watch this other thing, and then I watch that other thing, and now I'm completely off of the found
Oh,
footage genre,
that
and
happened
I'm
so
watching all
quick.
this other stuff. But um, one of the genres that I really got into during that like phase I was just talking about is Italian cannibal movies. And so if you've never seen Cannibal Holocaust, that is a found footage film. So
I know the title. I've never tracked that one down, although it gets brought up very often. I
yeah,
can't say I've watched a lot of Italian cannibal movies.
it's a great genre. If you like watching horrible people get their comeuppance.
That's too funny. That's too funny.
Yeah. And Cannibal Holocaust specifically is, I think it's certainly the earliest found footage film that I'm aware of.
So was that in the late 80s?
I want to say early 80s. The genre, it didn't start the genre, but it
Right.
was 1980. Yeah. So,
Okay.
but it was the most famous member of the genre. Man from Deep River started the genre, and that one is really different from the other ones in that it's not nearly as sensational and schlocky. It's much
Mm,
more of a serious film.
mm.
But Cannibal Holocaust became really notorious because the special effects in it were so effective that the director of the film actually got brought up on murder charges in Italy
Wow. Because I
because
thought it was a documentary.
they thought they thought it was real, and he had to like fly his actors into the court in Italy and have them testify. That is me. I am actually alive.
That's too funny. I've never heard that. I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to go back and check those two out to make sure I'm doing my due diligence.
yeah. Um, the one I try not to speak negatively of anybody's films, but once they get big enough, I feel like I can occasionally say something because I'm definitely not punching down. So
Right.
so the one thing I'll say negatively about that cannibal genre is that I think that Eli Roth's attempted love letter to it called The Green Inferno um, misses a lot of what I consider really important about the genre.
And that was not a found footage movie, right? But you're saying it was still in the same spirit.
Oh, most of these movies are not found footage
Right.
movies.
Gotcha.
That's
Gotcha.
one of the things that makes Cannibal Holocaust so distinctive.
Hmm.
And the movie within the movie in Cannibal Holocaust is called The Green Inferno.
I see.
That's where he got the title from. But
Gotcha.
the thing about the cannibal movies that makes them work really well, in my opinion, and I promise we'll get off this subject eventually.
That's fine. I told you, I warned you. I could talk about this stuff all day.
Yeah, but the thing that makes them work really well, in my opinion, is that the cannibals themselves are almost always depicted in a way such that their actions make sense, and they're
Mm,
really they're not just monsters or whatever. They're people who are living there, and then these white assholes come and are assholes to them, and then they kill the white assholes.
mhm.
Um, Whereas in Eli Roth's The Green Inferno, the cannibals are like almost like zombies. They're like mindless, and the white people are just fine, nice, kind, ordinary people, and they kill them for no reason.
Mm.
And that doesn't sit very well with me. Um,
That's sort of Eli Roth's thing, though, right? Is just make you watch these people get tortured.
right, but like I'm saying, there's a lot of movies that have that general structure of let's watch these people get tortured,
But you
and
want a reason. You want a reason why. Either they don't deserve it at all, or they really deserve it.
yeah, and I have to say personally, my tastes run towards the they really deserve it.
That's what you like to see.
Yeah, I like to
That's funny.
see.
I'm kind of the opposite because a lot of the found footage movies the trend is to make these, I guess maybe that's all horror, is to really hate the characters from the beginning and revel in what's going to happen to them. I find myself drawn to the opposite, where I really want to care about these people so that when the bad stuff happens, oh, it hurts. I don't, you know?
Both ways work, absolutely. Something that I say a lot, especially when I'm interviewing a horror filmmaker, is that like the thing that really separates a good movie from a great movie is how much does the audience care about the characters? How strong
Mhm.
are their feelings?
Mhm.
And
One way or another.
exactly one way or another. That they can be positive feelings where you really want to see them get out unscathed,
Mhm.
or they can be negative feelings where you really want to see them get their comeuppance. And in either case, as long as they care about the outcome, the movie's going to work.
Right. The
And
biggest sin you can commit is it'd be boring.
yeah, yeah, or even exciting stuff is going on, but you don't care about the characters that are involved in that, and so you don't really like it becomes like
connect.
a,
Yeah.
a special effects reel.
Right.
Um,
Interesting. Anyways, tangent. This is the found footage podcast.
oh yeah, man. Now my mind is on found footage, thinking about Gunjam Haunted Asylum and stuff like that. Uh, and but we hear them. How did that change your approach for getting us to like care about them? Because I know a lot of the time in a more traditionally shot film, the things that get me to care about characters is seeing their reactions to what other characters are doing, like facial expressions and things like that. And none of that's available except for the main character. So how did that change your approach there?
Yeah, I think it was more just about understanding who they were and what their motivation was. And there's little things thrown in there to make them unique, but more about you see, you understand at least why they're doing what they're doing, why they're here, why they're on this team, and what they're hoping to get out of it. And I tried to make it at least each time she has a conversation with one of these people, it forwards it a little bit and is moving towards a different place than where it started.
Yeah,
And
no spinning your wheels.
right. And then by the end, if they don't make it out, you'll at least feel like you've gone on a little bit of a journey with them, even though, like what you said, you've never seen their face, you've never seen a reaction, you've never seen their feelings get hurt or something like that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. I built up these mental images of what I assumed the characters looked like as I was
Yeah.
listening
Thank
to
you.
them.
Thank you. Yeah, totally. That's what I wanted. And part of it was having listened to so many podcasts, because that's what I do, probably too much. But you get an idea of what this person sounds like based on their voice. And then if you ever go look up their YouTube video or whatever it is, it's completely different. And you think, man, that's not what I pictured this person at all. They could be a different race, they could be a different age, they could be, completely different. And whose fault is that? Is that their fault? Is of course not. Is that your fault?
is there
Maybe.
is there
Is
fault to be
right. Is there
assigned?
anything wrong with that? But at least it's something that I have felt so strongly a number of times when I go look up, people's faces. I'm like, wow, what does that say about me? And I wanted
Yeah,
people to try to kind of have that
I
reaction at some
I
point.
I did. I had exactly that reaction during the movie, that like when there's that montage at the end that shows us the different characters that we've been listening to, and I was just like, wow, I had all these mental images and none of them are accurate.
And yet, did you feel like when you saw their faces, you knew who they were?
Oh yeah, I could match face to
Right.
voice as soon as I saw them.
Right.
Although I'm not sure I did it correctly for all of
Okay.
them, um but yeah, I as soon as I saw them I was like, "Oh, that's that character. That's what they look like." Oh, I was picturing, something
Right.
slightly to very different depending on the character.
Right.
Um
And that's something that I don't think I've ever seen in a movie before, which is probably why I wanted it in here.
yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. Um
Even most of the time when you have a story being told where you don't see the actor, it's an actor you know. You know what I mean?
yes,
So
and
even if it's just their voice, you know who it is. You know it's Kiefer Sutherland on the other end of the phone booth call.
yeah, and that's something that I like so much about independent cinema is that, I mean, sometimes I'll see actors that I recognize, but frequently everybody in the movie is someone I've never seen before, and so I just immediately I see them as their character. I don't see them as this person playing that character, which I really like.
Right, right.
Yeah, and on a personal note about that, you before we started recording, you mentioned that you'd listened to some episodes of the podcast and had a mental image of what I looked like. And we're recording this on a video call so we can see each other. And apparently, I didn't look like what you expected.
See, I had that experience just today. Can you believe that? It happens all the
Oh,
time. It's so wild. Maybe that
yeah,
will happen more and more in the future as people are, working from home more and more of it's phone calls and Zoom calls,
yeah, yeah.
anywhere in the world.
thinking about the kind of daily experiences I have that might line up with this, I'm realizing I have no idea what anybody who works at NPR looks like.
Yeah, totally. You probably listen to a lot of shows that you've never seen their faces, but you know them, you
Yeah,
know them on the
yeah,
inside because you've spent so much time with them. I guess that goes back to your question is how do you make people care is it feels like you've spent time with them. And even though she's never left this room, it's basically a real-time movie, 90 minutes
yeah,
pass
yeah,
and
yeah.
no time passes really outside of that. So even though only 90 minutes have passed, how much do you know someone after 90 minutes? And yet we feel
Depends
like
on the 90 minutes.
we feel like we've gone on this journey and we feel like we've come so far and yeah, we've gone literally nowhere.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm just now realizing that the aspect of what the actors look like um ties back in with what we were talking about earlier with voice actors, where very often, since voice actors, most of them anyways, can do a wide variety of voices,
Right.
they you can have a voice actor who doesn't look anything at all like what you would guess based on the character's voice.
Right.
Which, as someone who's a fan of the medium of animation, has sometimes almost kind of spoiled things for me where like, here's this character who's, like a punk teenage boy. And then I look at the voice actor and it's
Art Simpson.
yeah, it's like a 50-year-old woman. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, that's pretty different than what I was expecting.
For that medium, it's great because it really doesn't matter what your background is or how old you are or anything. What matters is your talent and the character that they're portraying. So yeah, totally.
Yeah. So you've been involved in the industry for a little over a decade, and you've been working on independent films and mainstream films for that pretty much that whole time, and are now getting into producing and directing your own independent films. Are you planning on continuing to make more independent movies?
Yeah, like I said, we need to see how this one's going to do first, and
Okay.
then we'll be able to make a decision. But I originally started writing screenplays because I wanted to be a better editor. I felt like putting
Okay.
myself
That's
through
interesting.
that, trying to understand why scenes happen when they do and how they do and how a whole story is constructed in a certain way would make me a better editor because I could sit and realize this is why the screenwriter had it this way. How can I achieve that, to the best? So I have 5 or 6 screenplays like done of all various budgets, anywhere from $10,000 to $2 million. And I'm sort of, it feels a
Wow.
little bit like floodgates are open, like, oh man, I did this. There's nothing stopping me from doing it again. And I can go bigger or I can go smaller. Like what's the one
Yeah.
that I feel might be easiest to do right now? Or there's an audience that I could find for it. That's the bigger question.
Yeah. What was the budget for Solid Rock Trust, out of curiosity?
I can tell you it was well below 6 figures.
Okay.
So certainly in the micro budget
I was
realm.
gonna say, so definitely a micro budget film.
But if you want to watch a lot of micro budget movies, which I do for fun, I think it's a cut above what you're usually used to seeing in that, range of budget.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly it avoided a lot of the sort of visual distinctiveness of a lot of extremely low budget films where everything is sort of flat and gray. Although, ironically, a lot of big budget films recently have had that same sort of color grading issue
Right.
going on, where they're shot in raw and then sort of left that way, it seems.
A lot of it comes down to what the director and director for photography have decided together.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure when we shot this, the camera would be moving. That's something that I don't see very much. I wanted there to be a set that felt like lived in and real, and not for a second you thought, oh, this is someone's apartment and they're shooting against the wall. Um, and I wanted to have the story move quickly. So I have some kind of turn every 10 to 15 pages in this on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, as I recall, it starts like in media res pretty much, where There's no like getting the gang together
No,
montage or anything. It's
nope.
just all right. The heist
I
is
didn't
already
want that.
underway.
Yep, I wanted
Yeah.
to start it right at the beginning. I wanted these 90 minutes to be during that time period and everything that could go wrong. And there's an element in here we haven't really talked about where she has a clock that she keeps hitting reset on because her phone calls need to be under 2 minutes. And that
Oh, right.
was
In order to prevent the tracing.
right. And that was an exercise for me in that I see so many indie or micro budget movies that the scenes just seem to go
They just
on
drag
like way
on.
too long.
I
And I thought, dude, no, 2 minutes, 2 pages for each of these conversations. I'm not getting any longer than that.
I
If I have to, there has to be something else happening. Like she has to stop it and something needs to change before the next one. Whatever it is, it needs to be moving. Like she doesn't have enough time. We should just be able to barely keep up with her thought process and with everything she's dealing with.
yeah. And it works. It really keeps the tempo up there, which is good. Um, so on the subject of editing, I have a question. Did you cut the trailer?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I did.
Okay, so I noticed that it does this thing that is apparently the new thing to do in trailers, where there's like a trailer for the trailer before the trailer
Yeah,
happens.
yeah,
Where it's like, here's 2.5 seconds of the movie, and then the trailer begins now.
right.
Is that a social media optimization thing, or like what's going
Yes.
on there?
And I tell you, a lot of people complain about that. And I did too 8 years ago when I cut my first trailer for the first indie movie. They're like, hey, we need it to be like this. And I went, "Ugh, that's so lame." But now I completely understand because that trailer is also going to be an ad.
Yeah,
It's not just people coming to watch the trailer. Of course, they're going to stick around and watch it, but it's also people scrolling through their
yeah.
feed. And we need 5 seconds that's going to hook them and say, maybe I'm going to hang out for 2 more minutes just to see what this is.
That is what I assumed was going on. Nice to get it confirmed.
Yeah. And that trend started at least 8 years ago. It might have been 10 years ago.
Really,
You
that long
started
ago?
seeing that
Wow.
for YouTube videos because it used to be that you saw all the trailers on YouTube and they would play a trailer before the trailer you were there to see. And they're trying to hook you to watch their trailer and then the trailer you came to watch.
Hmm.
And they know that that little counter is counting down. So you can skip this ad in 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, what is this? That's what they want you to do. And it's
Yeah.
worked for me before. Not always, but
Yeah, all right. I guess that all makes sense. Um, I had another question about editing, but it slipped out of my mind. So as someone who's been in the industry for a decade, what have you seen change, especially for independent filmmaking in that time? And where do you see the future of independent filmmaking going?
good question. What's changed since in that time is there's just so much more of it. Uh, We were talking earlier about you can shoot a movie on your phone. Everyone knows that now. And when I have people come to me that say, "Hey, I want to shoot a little video of like a friend of mine owns a winery and we need some video of theirs. What's a camera that you would suggest?" I'm like, "Dude, your phone is better than any camera we had 10 years ago. It's great. Just use that." And
That's what I'm planning
nowadays,
on doing.
I think independent filmmaking is going to be a little bit of cannibal holocaust, if I can relate back to that, because there's so much of it that every new one is a drop in the bucket, and it's harder and harder to stand out because it's just so easy to make a movie now. You can get a Blackmagic Pocket Mini for $2,000, $3,000, and it looks really good. It looks really good. Um, like I said, we used our reds. I think we probably spent 2,000, 3,000 on our whole camera package for the whole movie, and that's not very much.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
getting
that's
easier
that's
and
that's
easier to
quite
do.
that's quite little.
The difficult things are going to be telling original stories, telling them in effective ways, and really finding your audience that's out there. Because I believe in my soul that your audience is out there, but how to find them is difficult. Where it's going, I think for 50, 80 years in movie history, there's been a big disconnect between audiences and filmmakers. You go to California to be an actress or an actor or a director, and the audiences don't really connect with them other than watching their movies. There's no two-way street there. I think that's going to change a lot in the future with podcasts like these and YouTube videos of filmmakers and Reddit groups and Facebook groups. The people who are going to be making movies 30 years from now will have grown up in that environment. And I think it's going to become more and more the norm to just be able to email or tweet or personal message all these filmmakers, actors, and everyone's trying to build their brand. So no harm in reaching out until you're, the tippy top of the A list. But I'm kind of excited for being able to talk with fans, or me being able to reach out to filmmakers that I respect and say, hey man, I really liked this thing. Just thanks for making it. And do you have any advice for me? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do really love how approachable so many different filmmakers, especially independent filmmakers, although I haven't really tried to approach like any big mainstream filmmakers.
I have a feeling that actors and musicians get a lot of fan mail, and there's probably so much that, Taylor Swift does not have time to answer her fan mail.
No, of course
That
not.
being said, writers of TV shows, directors of stuff, unless they're the top 20 directors working, composers, all the other below the line positions, I don't think they get that much.
All
and
right.
I would encourage you to, if you find contact information for those people, just reach out and say, hey, big fan. I loved this. I love this one. And I tell you, I've done it before. And I'm surprised at how often it gets responded. Sometimes, I'm not going to say who, but at least twice I've realized that I'm working on a Marvel show with a director from something that I've seen recently. And he's not the director of the show, but he's on, a different position. And because we're all in the same family, I have access to an email address. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to email this guy. Hey, love the movie. I just watched it. In fact, I liked the last one, and it was great. And I'm a fan. If I ever see you around, I'm just going to pop my head in your office and say hi. And they'll get back to you.
That's awesome.
Because they see you're on the same show. I mean, it's 2,000 people working on a show together. So it's not like you're coworkers,
right.
Really. But it's like, hey, I bet he doesn't hear that very often.
Yeah, man. I think the real key clause in what you just said is if you can find their contact info.
Yeah, and that can be hard, but it's getting easier to find. I mean, I wouldn't pester anybody. Don't take that advice.
Oh,
but
no, I mean, I would reach out once, and then if they don't respond, maybe
if you find somebody's Twitter account, if you find if you have IMDb Pro, you can usually look up people's agents' email addresses.
I didn't even know IMDb Pro is a thing.
Yep. And you can email their agent and just say, hey, had a piece of fan mail. I think they did a great job. I bet they don't get that stuff very often.
Huh. All right. Yeah.
But like I said, more and more of these people are going to have grown up in the environment we're growing up with. So they're comfortable talking with people on Twitter or on Facebook or on YouTube or in some Discord chat room somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm very available on Reddit. If people ask me questions or, I'm posting something and they say, hey, you're that guy. Dude, yeah, I'll send you a message back. Why not?
Yeah. You're the second person to reach out to me on Reddit to have me take a look at their stuff and potentially interview them. And indeed, I've interviewed both of you now. The other one was Steve Rodzinski, who his interview just went live a few days ago, which gives you an idea of how much delay there is between when I record these and when they go live, because It's probably going to be a few months between when I say this and when anyone hears it. So you mentioned you've got all these plans. You're waiting to see how successful Solid Rock Trust is before you necessarily move forward with another one, which might have a budget of 10,000 or might have a budget of 2 million, depending on which one you make. What metrics are you using to decide that? Like, what counts as it being successful?
Um, well, it's really about how much money it makes back. That's it.
Fair enough.
Bottom line. And that's earlier you asked what's the difference between the big and small productions, and it's the same thing for them. You know,
How much money
Ava-
does it make? Yeah.
Avatar 3 is gonna happen because this one is already at 2 billion, that quickly. It's that easy of a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. So you sent me a screener of Solid Rock Trust, so that's how I watched it. And then later, I was feeling, oh, I want to rewatch this scene before the interview, and I just like instinctively was like, okay, I'm going to check Tubi. Oh, it's on Tubi. I'll just watch it on Tubi because it's so convenient. Um, so talk a bit about how you make the decisions for like where to distribute it. Did you sell it to a distributor and then they put it on Tubi? Did you distribute it directly yourself through um, an online service like
Film Hub.
Film Hub? That's the one I was trying to remember. Yeah.
So it seems like these days, this budget of film, you're not going to be selling a movie to anyone. You're going to be going into business with them as a distributor. And we did the same. Indie Rights is the distributor for us. I talked to a lot of people. I had a handful of offers, and they were the ones that felt the most honest and forward. And
Okay.
I liked that a lot about them. After we handed off everything to them, it's in their hands where it goes. So they're
Interesting.
partnered with Tubi. They're partnered with, I mean, they have it on Amazon. I mean, it came onto Tubi in December, so it's still pretty new there. We're on Amazon Rentals. We're on Google Play Rentals. We're on YouTube Movie Rentals, and it will be on more platforms in the future. Just because they have relationships with all these different places, and they want it to make money, so they're trying to find every audience that they can for it. Whether that's a Roku channel or a Tubi channel, it doesn't matter to them. And
Yeah.
we're in business together, so the more people see it, the better
Yeah.
for both of us.
It's always interesting. And so then they just like take a percentage and okay. Yeah. So that aligns incentives pretty well.
Right.
So it's always interesting to me when something's both available for rent on Amazon or what have you, where you pay a few dollars and you rent the movie for a few days. And then it's also available on Tubi because Tubi's free. So wouldn't that like cannibalize a lot of your sales?
Not necessarily. It's a different audience. I have Disney Plus with no commercials because I can afford it and I really hate commercials. But there is another audience that is fine watching commercials if it is cheaper for them because it's in their budget. And Tubi's the same
Mm,
way. I watch tons of movies on Tubi because you can't find them anywhere else.
yeah,
But
it's an amazing resource for independent cinema.
there's also a huge audience on Tubi that doesn't care if they watch 3 or 4 minutes of commercials over an hour and a half, and that's great for them. But there's also an audience that does not want to even watch that. And you know what? It's more convenient to just click $2.99 on Amazon Prime because it's how they always do it, and it's done. I don't think you're eating into your profits one way or another.
Okay, good to hear. Yeah, growing up, I didn't have cable or anything. So if I have a lot of memories of like being over at a friend's house and we'd watch, if we didn't get anything from Blockbuster, we'd watch a movie on whatever cable channel, and there would be commercials. And
Right.
so for me, that was just sort of a natural part of the movie viewing experience. But I know a lot of other people who are very stridently against that and say that it breaks the flow of the film and things like that. But then nowadays there's things like on I don't know if you have Shutter or if you've used that at all,
I
but
know what Shutter is. I'm not a subscriber,
okay,
although
yeah.
I'm very, very tempted.
As a big horror movie buff, I have a Shutter subscription, and one of the things that I have been growing more appreciative of as I grow older is the skill of curation, which is
Mm,
like not instead of just watching a random movie or watching whatever happens to be the new big talk of the town, uh, watching things that somebody who's really knowledgeable have specifically chosen as being good or historically important or interesting in some way. And so one of the things that certainly I like the best on Shudder, and also quite a lot of other people like, is The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs.
Mm,
Where are you familiar with this guy?
no.
Okay, so Joe Bob Briggs is a fictional persona created by a film reviewer who has been a film reviewer for decades and decades, specializing in like independent and especially like schlock cinema. Um, and he did like Monster Vision on TNT, and other things like that. But he's this very knowledgeable film reviewer. And so this is like a horror host show like Svengoolie or Elvira, where he introduces the film and tells you background on it. And then
Right.
also several times through the movie will pause the movie and like talk for 5 or 15 minutes about the movie and then resume it, which I can only assume that the people who really hate commercial breaks also really hate this, because it's got the same problem of interrupting the flow of the film. But it's an incredibly popular format. I think it's far and away the most popular thing on Shudder, and the people who subscribe to Shudder are
Partly are
doing it.
there for that.
A lot of them are, yeah. But I was going to say, like, are people who specifically care about the medium of film in a way that the people who subscribe to Disney Plus or Netflix don't necessarily. And so it's interesting to me to see this variety of perspectives on what makes for a valid viewing experience.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, well, you're just finding an audience that's wants something slightly different. It reminds me of there was a couple of cable channels that would play regular movies, and then but at the commercial breaks they would have like a couple come in. Do you remember those? It was like they're
uh,
watching the movie with you on the couch and they're like talking about it, and then they go to commercial and then they come back and they're like, "Oh yeah, remember that part?" Da, da, da. And then they would go back into the movie. You don't remember
that's
that?
just no. I mean, like I said, I didn't grow up with cable, and so I would only see those occasionally at like a sleepover at a friend's house. So
Yeah,
no, I don't
maybe.
recall that.
So
That's
it's basically
interesting.
that exact format, right?
Yeah.
The thing that I do miss the most are DVD special features.
Ah, yes, that is a big, and like DVDs certainly haven't gone away.
Right.
But
When we were
streaming doesn't
younger
have that.
and renting movies from Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, I would watch every DVD special feature on every movie that we got because that felt like film school to me. And I was so fascinated with how
Yeah.
they were doing what they were doing. And we don't have that anymore. And I'm bummed because there's no reason not to. You know, when you
So,
click on a movie on Netflix or on Disney
mm,
and it says more, like you can watch trailers, you can watch little spots. Why are you guys not putting in the behind the
director's
scenes stuff
commentary and all
right
that.
there?
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that I have appreciated about watching movies on Amazon is they have that X-ray feature
Oh yeah,
where
right.
it's not quite the same, but
It's
it
just
is.
IMDb, like on the spot, basically, right?
Yeah, yeah. I really wish there was a way to just set it to always be there, because like if I'm watching a movie for the third or fourth time or whatever, having part of the
Mhm.
screen obscured with interesting facts about the actors and the scene and what have you would totally be something I'd enjoy doing. But I have to like pause it and wiggle the mouse around in order to get to see them.
Yeah, that does sound like a feature request you could email Amazon Prime about.
Maybe I will. Ah.
Hey, Amazon Prime, this is Thomas Elliott, faithful subscriber. This might be weird, but could you do a little button where I could leave the X-ray up? I know, it sounds crazy. Why would anyone want to have that up on their movie all the time? But here's the thing. I put it on for the fourth time while I'm doing dishes, and I just want to peek over and remind myself what the name of that actor was without scrolling through my phone. So get on that. They're going to be like, who is this guy? And no, we don't have time to program
Oh man, I like your imitation of my voice there.
that. It's very buttery smooth.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Oh man. So I usually conclude these interviews by asking about the future of independent cinema question, but I already asked
Oh,
you
yeah.
that one.
Oh, good.
So the other backup question is, where are you going from here? But I've already asked you about that. So do you
Yeah,
want
I think I'm gonna try to. I think I'm gonna try to do. I want to do horror. The idea of
to? Okay.
Solid Rock Trust was take a genre and use all the pieces of that genre in a way no one's used them before.
Okay.
So we still have gunfights and we still have double crossings and we still have like even romantic scenes and we still have all this stuff, even though you've never seen it like this.
Yeah.
And part of the game was to be able to hit all those, things that have to happen every time, but doing it in a different way. And I would like to try to do that, with a found footage or with a horror movie somehow, where these are the things
Yeah.
that you think go into a horror movie and they're still here, but you have not quite seen it like this before. Sort of turn the genre around.
Yeah. Found footage is a really interesting one that people have really been very creative in terms of different approaches, like showing you things that you haven't seen like that before. Like in Cannibal Holocaust, it's a professional film crew that's whose footage you find. In Gunjam Haunted Asylum, they have a YouTube channel that they're
Right,
filming for.
right.
So I'd be curious to see what you come up with.
That one is very exciting to me, and I think it's because it has like really defined rules that it needs to follow, just like a bank heist does. Like these are the things that happen every time. If you don't have these, you're something else. You're just a drama.
All right, I'm curious. What are the rules that you see for that specific genre?
For found footage?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you have to have a motivation for filming this.
Yes.
You can't have a camera angle that isn't achieved by something different than the camera you're filming, right? So
Yes.
in that it's fun. I guess you don't have to have it supernatural, although a lot of times the fun of found footage is that this is real.
Yes.
And now you're watching something that is impossible. So the feeling of documentary lends itself to that because it's like, whoa, this feels so grounded, and yet I know that this is fiction.
Yeah.
It's fun playing with that. The idea that you can figure out ways around it, but you're not supposed to have music, right? Because who edited music into a found footage movie?
Yeah.
So you have to achieve, fear and whatever it is that you're going for without that backing you up, right?
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of times found footage has to have an ending which explains why this footage is found, which is fun.
That's always an interesting a difficult part of it.
Yeah, totally. But you have to come up with that because part of the game you're playing here is this footage was found by someone. It is real. We all know it's not. Okay, we know it's not, but suspension of disbelief. What happened to get this footage from wherever it ended to me, and why am I watching it right now?
Yeah.
I like all of those, like just tropes. Like you need to fit these in, and in fact, I like the genres that have tropes in them because those are the like puzzle pieces that you can play with and mix around in refreshing ways. That's what makes it fun for me.
Yeah, I agree. And to take a brief moment for self-promotion, in my role-playing game, Fear of the Unknown, available now at fearoftheunknownrpg.com, that's all about, like, let's try to literally codify this sort of thing into game mechanics so that you can just sit down and generate this kind of story. I agree that having tropes that are well defined, but you can still put your own twists on them, is a really fun, like, restrictions breed creativity sort of thing.
Right. So that would be the goal. If not that, then another genre maybe that has the same idea that we can do a spin on.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think horror is traditionally for independent filmmakers a good, easy, low budget thing to do.
It has a really well defined hungry audience. They're always looking for the next thing, and it's easy to find them. And there's a lot of subgenre in that one genre. It's also one that's fun, so people come back to it. I love a good drama. I love going through all the Best Picture nominees, but some of them feel like homework. Am I right?
Yeah, they can. Yeah.
Am I going to sit here and watch another one of these?
Yeah. Oh man. So there's something that just occurred to me. You're talking about wanting to put a twist on whatever genre it is you do, and talking about found footage and talking about horror versus non-horror. I'm not sure I've ever seen a found footage film that wasn't a horror film.
There's definitely sci-fi. found footage that isn't
Okay,
scary. Lunopolis is a really good one. It's pretty old at this point. I mean, not pretty old, 10, 15 years maybe.
that's not that old.
It's dated when you look at it because of how far technology's come in that
Oh, interesting.
time. So it looks not quite what you would hope by
Oh,
today's standards.
yeah. Okay. I guess when a found footage film is not a horror movie, they don't call it found footage. They call it a mockumentary.
Well, that's a different style. So a mockumentary would be like a true crime style documentary, right?
Yeah.
Where there's interviews and there's music, and Lake Mungo is like this. There's another one out you should check out called Into the High Horror in the High Desert.
Horror in the High Desert.
That was
Okay.
just released by Indie Rights, same people who just released my movie, which is I don't want to
Well,
give too much
cool.
away, but maybe what you're describing.
Interesting. Yeah, I will. Although, given that it has the word horror in
Well,
its
that one is still
title.
a horror, but it is more of a mockumentary style
Oh, okay.
than it is like a Blair Witch.
Yeah, like Troll Hunter.
Right.
It's another good one.
Yeah. I love
And
that one.
another one that's neither a mockumentary nor found footage, but makes sort of use of that kind of structure in some parts, which is a really great movie, is Shin Gojira or Shin Godzilla. Have you seen that one?
I have not watched that. I watch a lot of Godzilla movies,
Okay, this is
but
the
I've never
most
seen this
recent
one.
Japanese Godzilla film,
Okay.
and it's really really good. It's not a sequel to any of the other ones. It's almost a remake of the original, but set in the present. And one of the things that they do that really makes Godzilla's appearance and interactions with the humans really like viscerally powerful is that at least for the first few times that we see Godzilla, um, we stop seeing from the point of view of like a professional, video camera recording a film, and we start seeing like handheld cell phone camera footage.
Right.
Uh, and we get a bunch of different angles, but they're all cutting from to different people's cell phones.
Right. Right.
Um,
That's fun. That's sort of along. I mean, that's what Cloverfield was doing when it
uh,
first came
y-
out.
yeah. Well, I mean,
It
Clover.
wasn't multiple different cell phones, but the idea of a monster attacking the city from POV of a
Yeah,
normal
yeah, yeah,
person.
yeah, yeah. I like Cloverfield too, but I would say like if Cloverfield is an 8, Shin Godzilla is a 10.
Okay, I'm gonna check
Um,
this one out then. Do you know
oh,
where I
it's
can watch?
it's so
Where's
good.
that one
Oh
available?
gosh, I don't know. I know I streamed it like when it came out, uh, but I'm not sure. You can rent it
Not
on Prime.
2016, newer than that.
Uh, no, it might be that old.
Okay,
2016. Yeah, yeah,
okay,
2016. Because it's the most recent Japanese Godzilla movie. There's been at least one or two American Godzilla movies since then, but those are very different.
gotcha.
Um, ah, and it looks like it's available both on Amazon Prime and on archive.org.
Nice. Okay,
One of those ones that I love it a whole bunch, and I sure hope that they're not breaking laws and going to get shut down at some point.
right.
So thank you so much for coming on Invasion of the Pod People and talking about your work, talking about all these other people's works. Great
Yeah,
conversation about
thank you.
found footage films.
Yes, thank you. I will always come talk movies with you or anyone. So
Fantastic.
look me up.
Yeah, and especially let me know should you make another independent film, let me know and we'll get you on and talk about that one. Um, so for anyone who's listening, where can they find your work and social media or anything like that you'd like to direct people to?
Yeah, if you look for Solid Rock Trust on Google, you'll find a lot of spots. But we're Solid Rock Trust on Facebook. We're Solid Rock Trust Film on Instagram. We are Flashbulb Films on Twitter. You could find us all over the place. I mean, like I said, we're available for free on Tubi, but you could do a rental on Amazon. You could do a rental on Google Play. You could do YouTube movies. I believe it will be free on YouTube at some point this year. I don't
Oh,
know when this is
interesting.
coming out, but our distributor Indie Rights has their own channel, which is actually their highest moneymaker right now of all the different places
Yeah.
because it's direct. And we're going to be on a lot of platforms coming up, so you could, keep up with. Just type that in, you'll see where it is.
Yeah, and minor edit to what one of the things you just said on Twitter. You guys are flashbulb_films,
Thank you.
not just flashbulb films. That's somebody
Yeah.
else. And yeah, so I guess one last question before I let you go. Since your films are available on so many different platforms, and to my surprise, you said that YouTube would be the biggest earner. Do you have preferences about like what platform people watch you on? Because I'm gonna guess that you make more money if somebody spends $3 to rent your movie on Amazon than if they watch it on Tubi. But perhaps the engagement metrics are better on Tubi or something.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were going back to talking about, finding the audience, because there's certain people that are just on Amazon, and yes, we do make more there per screening, but it's happening less because you just have a bigger audience on Tubi.
Yes.
And if it's ever on Prime, you make less than you do on Tubi because you're getting paid.
Oh, like on the free with Prime thing?
Right. You're getting paid per hour watched, and the rate that Prime pays is lower. I believe I think Tubi has the highest per hour rate right now.
Interesting.
But YouTube has the biggest audience just because there's so many people, and that's across the whole world. It's not just America or the UK.
Yeah, I wonder whether is Tubi just America or the UK?
I'm not really sure. I think it is different depending on what country you're in for Tubi. Kind of like Netflix, they only have deals with certain places depending on where you live.
A distributor might have the rights to like, okay, we can show this in North America, but we can't show it in Europe, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, well, certainly Tubi is where I watch most, where I most discover. Tubi and YouTube are where I most discover new independent films, just because the commitment of sitting there and watching a movie that I've never heard of before it's much lower and easier to do if I can just sit there and watch it.
I do the same thing. Sometimes I'll scrub through and see, like, is this at least up to the quality that I require? Yeah, okay. I'll start it back at the beginning. That's harder to do when you have to.
Interesting. I've never done that.
Yeah, totally. Well, maybe that comes from my background as an editor, where I'm constantly like moving the mouse around. But it's a lot harder to do that when you've already paid for it. You feel like, even though, I mean, what's $2? But still, you feel like you're making a commitment.
Yeah,
by doing that.
Yeah, and if there's a difference between just $2 for one of them. I don't watch just one movie. I watch a lot of movies.
Right. It can start to add
for
up.
each of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The thing I really enjoy doing on Tubi that you might give a try is just pick like at least 3 movies, watch all the trailers for them, and then pick one of those to watch. I host a weekly movie night with some of my friends over Google Meet like this. And yeah, we each nominate a few movies to watch the trailers for, and then pick one of those movies to watch, and then usually a second, maybe a third.
Nice. Well, you should submit for their approval of the Midnight Society Solid Rock Trust and see what they think, since I know it's available there for them.
Yeah. We've actually already decided on what we're watching tonight, but we next time that we have the trailer festival, I will do that.
And then, by the way, for your listeners, if you guys do happen to watch this and like it, please find me on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes and leave me a nice review, because those are more valuable than anything.
Oh yeah, I should get into the habit of doing that. And what about Letterboxd? Do you pay attention
we're
to
on
those as well?
Yeah, I use Letterboxd personally. I just barely got our movie on there, so it might be blank as far as reviews go, because that's only been in the last couple days.
Okay.
But sure, by all means.
All right. Yeah, well, thank you again so much for coming on, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with next.
It's been a pleasure, Thomas. I'll talk to you very, very soon.
That almost sounds like a threat.
I'm outside of your window right now.
Ah!